today we are at the B.B. King Museum, which you can probably tell from the music playing in the background. This museum is dedicated to the life and legacy of B.B. King. So let's go on inside and learn a little bit about the King of Blues himself. As you walk in the museum, you'll be greeted by two glass doors and beautiful wood panels throughout. Over there is the Lucille gift shop and their lobby. Now, inside the Lucille gift shop, many great items to commemorate the King of Blues. So, due to copyright reasons, we are not allowed to actually film inside the museum, but we were able to get an interview with the director of the museum. So why don't we play that for you right now on this YouTube video? Let you listen, though, to the legacy of B.B. King and his history. So we are back here on the History Guy podcast, and we're sitting down with Miss Polkley, who is the director at the B.B. King Museum. So thank you for being here today.
Okay.
So tell us about the B.B. King Museum itself.
The B.B. King Museum tells you the story of the musician B.B. King. It also tells you the history of the Mississippi Delta as well as Indianola. It tells you some civil rights history that was going on during his lifetime, as well as how music evolved during his lifetime and how his music evolved. So it's a complete story of his life and snapshots of other pieces of history that were taking place during his life.
So tell us about Mr. King himself. His lifetime. What were the accomplishments?
Well, Mr. King is a 15 Grammy Award-winning artist, and he's an icon. He was a music icon. He was the ambassador for the blues all over the world. And but besides that, he was a philanthropist. He believed in giving back to his community here, and he was a very just all-around humble, helpful person. He is the idol of many musicians today. They learned or tried to learn BB's style. He's what inspired many guitarists to become guitarists.
So can you elaborate on how he gave back to his community here?
Well, this is his hometown. He's from Indianola, and he always claimed Indianola, and so he gave back in a lot of different ways, from youth activities to the local colleges and universities here to individuals, and also to, the community as a whole, coming back doing free concerts every year, homecoming concert he did. So there were several different ways.
So tell me about his start on the radio station on Bell Street and how, it was the start of him becoming a true icon in American culture.
Well, yeah, that was the start of him really getting his music to a wider audience, and for people to really get to know who BB was. BB was performing, but he was performing more in, at the time, were called juke joints and places of that nature. But what getting on the radio allowed him to do is to expand his audience base. Which was the lead in to him beginning to become the musician and musical icon that he was. So that was the I would say the pivotal point in his career as far as expanding his career.
Rumor has it that B.B. King saved his guitar Lucille from a fire many years back. Tell us about that, as well as the special relationship he had with his guitar.
He did save it from a fire in Arkansas at a club. Two gentlemen got to fighting and a fire broke out. And BB ran out of the club, forgot his guitar, thought about it, and ran back in the club to get the guitar. He asked the gentleman who they're fighting over. They were fighting over a lady. He asked the name, and the lady's name was Lucille. And that's how Lucille got its name, from that incident. And BB made Lucille an icon because of the way he played Lucille. And he made that inanimate object real because of, the music that came from Lucille.
So let's talk about, the amazing skills he had with the guitar. Was he self-taught, or did he have someone who was there teaching him?
BB was self-taught. All of his talent is natural talent. Natural talent that he developed his own style and over time himself. That's why there is not a guitarist that can imitate BB. He had his own natural skill. Many have tried, a lot come close, but none have actually been able to imitate BB's sound.
So what do you think was the biggest impact that BB himself made on society, not only through his words, but also through his music?
I think the biggest impact was making blues music a beloved genre by so many. He was an ambassador for blues. And by doing that, he also helped people to understand the culture that blues came from, the African American culture that was tied to blues music. And so I think that is his greatest contribution, helping the world, helping society to understand and appreciate this genre of music and the culture of people that started it.
So what are some locations besides the museum here that really honor the King of Blues?
This is the only B.B. King museum in the world. There is no other. There can be no other. And so as far as continuing his legacy and telling his story, his life story, and we are what you get to do that. We are the only best representation of that. There are other markers, blues markers, that along the way that you'll find throughout the Mississippi Blues Trail for BB. And Memphis, Tennessee has some, what do I want to call them, wall art or...
and along with the BB King Blues Club, I believe,
right, with the clubs, the blues clubs, but... to get the real story of his life and the legacy, the blues clubs are just what they are. They're clubs. But if you want to get the life and legacy of B.B. King, there's only one place to get it, and that's here. The blues clubs, they continue the tradition of that he started of recognizing, supporting, and sharing blues music with the world. If you want to get a dose of that, the clubs would be where you would get it. But to get the real authentic history of the man's life and his legacy, you can only get it from here.
So did he live to see the museum here?
Yes. The museum opened in 2008. BB didn't die until 2015. And so he came every year. He was here when grand opening. He had input into some of the exhibit styles. And the artifacts that he donated to the museum, they're ours. Most of the things that you see throughout, a lot of all the things such as the Lucille's, the office area, the clothing, those were all his that he donated to the museum. So he had input.
So one final thing, is Lucille at the museum here, or is she somewhere else?
Lucille, we have 7.
So you have seven
Lucille's. There was not just one Lucille.
Right.
Every time he got a new guitar, it was named Lucille. So there were many Lucille's throughout the years. But in the exhibit alone, there's 7, and we still have a couple that are in archive that we haven't put on display yet.
So the one that was in the fire, though, where is that one?
The original Lucille?
Yes.
Nobody knows. He didn't even know.
Really?
Right. I mean, you think about his career spanned it for over 50 years. So he changed guitars a lot.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us, ma'am. And until next time, don't erase history here on the History Guy podcast. So until next time on the History Guy podcast, my name is Aiden Hunter, saying don't erase history, live here from the B.B. King Museum.